Thanks for joining us again today on Practical Church Planting. We're going to be giving you 8 recommended tools for church planners.
These are some of the things we used when we started, some of the things we've used since we've started.
Yep.
But these are all basic, easy to use. We see a lot of this, a lot of questions we get in our Practical Church Planting Facebook group that you can join if you're not in it. People kind of ask about tools and stuff. So here's some resources that we use that we would recommend. And real quick, before we jump into that, we also, on our practicalplanning.com, we revamped... we have a social media guide. Before it was like 4 things or whatever. We've completely revamped it, and it's a lot longer now. It's like 12. It's like a 12-page little PDF ebook thing. It's called a Church Planter's Guide to Social Media. It gives you templates like what to post, when to post, schedule. So if your social media is something you want to get better at, it's completely free. Just go to practicalplanning.com. Put in your email address, and we'll send it to you. It's the Church Planter's Guide to Social Media, and it's really helpful. So it's like if you don't have any idea what to do, get that. It's completely free. And I think it'll be helpful for you.
Yep,
so
100% free.
All right, here we go. 8 recommended tools. Other than that, helpful tool.
Yes.
Things that we've kind of used over the course of the last couple of years as we've learned and grown, and things that we recommend to you. The first one is, and some of these we've talked about before in various episodes, putting it all together here. The first one is a productivity app. There's lots of them. I always see Monday.com on YouTube for whatever reason, but there's Trello and Asana, whatever. We have landed on Todoist, which I'm a fan of, really big fan of.
Yep.
One of the reasons I'm a big fan of it is, unlike some of the other ones I've used, maybe it's because I don't know how to set them up, you can set like recurring tasks, and when you click done, it's like off your task list, but it will automatically reappear.
Yeah.
For the next week if you're on the calendar view or whatever. Where other ones, like when I would click done, it would stay in my to-do list. It would just update the date.
Just change the date,
but it wouldn't take it out of my thing.
Yeah.
And so I really like Todoist because it, you can actually schedule it. My favorite thing about Todoist is the hotkeys. It's Command-Shift-A on Mac. I don't know what it is on PC. But what I found is like if you're in the middle of something and you have a train of thought and you get distracted, instead of like stopping what you're doing and writing it down, it's really easy to like really quickly take a note of it and then keep going so you don't have to remember it. And so you can be in the middle of doing anything on your computer, and you can type something like, remind me to check something, and just hit tomorrow, and it automatically puts it on your calendar for tomorrow or for today. And I think I've said this in previous episodes. One of the things that's really helpful about it is that it has forced me to put due dates on everything, which really helps you get things done instead of having like this random to-do list of when I'm supposed to do stuff. So I use the calendar view. Typically, my standard setup is just the next 7 days. And I put due dates on everything, gets it out of my mind. And then at the end of the day, if I have any tasks that I didn't finish, I'll change the due date to the next day so that I don't have any tasks that are left over. Brian is a little bit more organized than I am. But of all the productivity apps, I have found Todoist to be the best one.
Yeah, we've tried a few of them. We kind of went through at the beginning, early on in New City, and did different ones for a period of time. And different people like really love certain productivity apps that we just found weren't as intuitive as Todoist. And so if you have one you love, great. But if you're looking for one, and this is definitely the best one that we found that works the best in our situation at least. And if you, little added bonus, if you have an iPhone, a newer one, they have a Todoist widget.
Yes, that's
which
also
is really helpful. Because like for me, a lot of like I'll do work on my computer some of the time, on the church computer some of the time, on no computer some of the time. And so I got really frustrated. Like I kept not keeping up with these things because some days I just would never even be at my computer. And then it's like, why is all my stuff tied to one computer? And I want to like be logging in at different computers and like it just seemed like it was more cumbersome than it was worth. But then having this on kind of your home screen of your phone, granted, work's always in front of you, so I don't know if that's a healthy thing or not. But if that's something that you look for, of like something to keep in front of you without having to log into different apps and stuff like that, it's really helpful.
Yep. So then there's a premium version, but all this stuff we're talking about, you can do it on the free one.
Yep.
So Todoist, check out the hotkeys and put due dates as a side note on all of your tasks. It'll help you keep you organized. That's one we've been using, I don't know, for maybe over a year now.
Yeah.
And really like it. Number 2, talk about this recently, is Calendly, or some sort of calendar scheduling thing. And it might feel weird if you're a smaller church or a church plant to send people a link but I found in my 3 months of using it, I don't know why I didn't use it before. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
I've even met with some pastors or whatever, some like larger churches, whatever. And I felt bad, but I also sent them my Calendly link, like even though they're busier than I am, because I'm like, well, we're not going to keep going back and forth. And so, and it's, I use the free version. I think I mentioned this in Cal Newport's book. He came out in March called the Email, World Without Email. He says pretty much if you meet with over 2 people a week, you should get it. So whatever it is, Calendly is really helpful. It gives you a link. It syncs with your Google Calendar or whatever you use. And so when you're and not available. Like you set when you're available on Calendly, and then if you have something that you put in your calendar, it'll take it off that thing. And all you have to do is send a link anytime you want to meet with somebody instead of trying to think of times. And so I would just say don't feel bad about it. Nobody really cares. Like no one's going to feel like you think you're better than them. And that is something I would have used way sooner.
That's good. Yeah, I've had a few times where I've been trying to get with like different pastors and things, and it is just annoying to be like, these are the times I'm available. But if it doesn't work for you, I'm kind of also available this time, which is like a secondary, but I just rather give you a bunch of options than spend all day going back and forth via email. So something like that is really helpful.
Yep. So again, if we were to start New City at the beginning, if I was going to go 4 years ago, Todoist, Calendly.
Both free so far.
Both free.
Yep.
So far. And it doesn't have to be Calendly, but again, just like Todoist, find something that works for you that you're actually going to use.
Yeah.
Calendly, there's a couple of other ones, but that seems to be the most user-friendly for my purposes, and so I would recommend you checking that out.
I think it's the most common that you see too.
Yeah.
I think most people have seen it before.
Yep. Number 3, there are lots of different ways to organize documents and files. We recommend Google Drive, and it's what we've used the most. And there's like Dropbox and all these other things, but then you have to like download extensions, and not everyone uses it. So there's sometimes people send me stuff in Dropbox, and I'm like, I don't have Dropbox, and so I do, but I don't use it, so I have to log in. As long as you have a Gmail account or an email that's associated with Google, I mean, everybody has access to it. So it seems to be, in my opinion, a little bit more universal. And so we use Google Drive for everything, though. So like, my sermons are all in there, and so when we go over the sermons with the staff, like everyone has access to it. It's also just, if you preach regularly, I would recommend having your sermons on a file, on a drive, or on a cloud-based something, because you never know if you want to reference some things and don't have to do the work again.
Yeah.
As a side note, what I do is I take a lot of notes, like many of you do, and then I kind of compress it just like an outline, and that's what we print out for like the screens person on a live stream. What I started doing 2 years ago was I used to like erase all of my notes and just have a small things. What I do, this is just a trick. If you're someone who doesn't preach with a manuscript and you slowly like whittle down your notes, before you start whittling them down, copy them and paste them below, and then whittle down your notes. And so you have the short version, and then you have all of your research below it. So there are times where I want to reference. So today, literally, I wanted to look up a passage from 1 Corinthians, which we've preached a couple of years ago, and a passage from Exodus, which we just finished. And fortunately, since we've preached both of those texts, I was like, oh, wait, I already done research on them. The 1 Corinthians one, I had, this is before I started doing this regularly, so I only had my outline. So I didn't have my notes on the verse. But the Exodus one, I, had all of my notes below the outline, and so I was able to see what I had written as opposed to having to find it again.
Oh, interesting.
So anyway, that's just a sermon thing. But we use it for like graphics. I mean, everything we do is all Google Drive based, and so I would recommend finding something that all your staff could use, but even people outside New City. So like our elders, we share things, and we have files and stuff like that. And so the sooner the better that you can get on a cloud-based thing. Even if you're by yourself and you're like, well, I can save it all on my computer, you're probably going to want to share some stuff in the future. So get everything on something cloud-based. We recommend Google Drive because it seems to be the most universal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is like, 10-year-old advice, but like everything should be on a cloud-based thing. Hopefully that's not new advice. Like we just, for instance, here at the church 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago or something like that, from when we're recording this, our computer completely crashed.
Oh yes, it was great.
The computer that we use for everything crashed, and we took it to get repaired, and they couldn't recover any of the data. So it was all gone, and that was like a terabyte of information. But like most of the important stuff, if we were being responsible, for the most part, was on some sort of cloud-based, was on Google Drive. And so even if you think like I don't have anything super important, just Google Drive. I mean, I think right. Yes, it's free for your account.
Like
I mean, I know
you get like 30 gigs of stuff, which for most people you'll never hit. So.
Right, and so yes, use it. Please use it. Don't leave everything on your computer. But yeah, I mean, and it's the kind of thing where there's other people who use like Outlook and OneDrive. Is that it? Something like there's other ones that are associated with other email servers. But Google is just it's the most universal.
Yeah, and I know some people even really like Evernote, which is fine. But again, if you have stuff that you want to share at some point in the future, you have to have Evernote, and Evernote can be confusing. So if you're an expert at it, it's great. But like,
well, so I used Evernote in the beginning, like for just writing things, just because I don't know, like that's what people recommended.
Like smart people do.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but like when we do like message collabs and stuff here, I'd have to go in and copy it all and paste it in a Google Doc, and eventually it was like, I'm benefiting nothing from Evernote, and I'm putting everything over here anyway, so why not just use it? And as long as you can organized, like as long as you're comfortable taking a few minutes and making sure things are organized,
Yeah.
it's great. Like it can end up being just kind of this black hole of stuff because if you just create something new and don't assign it to a folder, you just end up having a ton of stuff. But if you take a few minutes and organize things, you can make it really clean and organized and easy to get to, and everyone can have access to it. It's really great. So.
Yeah, so some cloud-based thing, we recommend Google Drive because it is the most universally accepted by everybody, even people outside your organization, but just have something that works.
And what's the nonprofit discount or
It's
deal?
free.
Free. There you go. It's free.
Yeah, for your email, I mean, it's Google. They changed the name. It used to be Google Apps. Now it's Google something. I don't know what it's called. Google Suite.
G Suite?
Yeah, that's what it is. If you're a 501c3, it's free for 10 emails in Google Drive. So
yeah. Get it.
Yep, that's what we recommend. Some sort of Drive, cloud-based, but we recommend Drive.
Yep.
Number 4 is something that I'll explain it. So Logos, if you're familiar with the Bible software, it's expensive. I've had it for a long time before New City, so that was helpful. I don't really understand most of it. I don't use it at all. So I just want to explain how I've started to use it and if it's helpful for you or not. There's all this Bible study tools and whatever. I now just primarily use it as a sermon prep tool. And what I do, when I started doing this like 2 years ago or so, like for new books, books of the Bible, whatever, I don't buy physical commentaries. Typically I buy 2 per book.
Series, yeah.
And I buy them through Logos. And so I don't have to have the comment. I don't have to bring them anywhere. I mean, I always do my sermon prep here, but for some reason I can't. It's on my computer. When other people are preaching, you can borrow my iPad and you can have it. And I have it set up to where and you can YouTube it. I'm not a super organized person, so how I do it, it's not very complicated, but basically you can have you can save presets. And so like each book of the Bible, how I have it on my screen is I have half. Well, I move over the half, so it takes two-thirds of the screen. But basically, half of it is my commentaries, and you can just click the tabs for each commentary. And then the other half of it, the top half is the Bible, and the bottom half is the Bible. So why do you have 2 Bibles? The top half is connected, is linked to the commentary. So as I'm scrolling through the verses or through the commentaries, it's automatically linked up to those verses. And the bottom one is not linked to the commentary, so I can click around and scroll and not get out of place. I found it to be really helpful. Now, if you're only going to use Logos for how I've described it, it's expensive. I don't know if there's other platforms like that, though, especially because you can buy commentaries through Logos. But basically, that's what I do is it's completely electronic. And again, you can have all your commentaries, you can buy them as you're doing the books, and then you just click a tab instead of having to open up the books, have multiple books on your desk, and you can lock them, link them. And so as you're scrolling through the verses, the commentary moves down with the verses. Yeah. So that is something that I've done a couple years ago that I've definitely helped organize and make sermon prep easier because it's more organized is Logos. So
interesting. And if you're wanting to figure out like if you want to use it, if it's worth spending money on, they have a free version.
I was going to say that you could. I bet you can. Can you buy the commentaries through the free version?
I haven't tried. I have the free version, and like there are some that come with the version. So it's just like within the past couple weeks, I kind of remembered that they had a free one, so I downloaded it. But I haven't tried buying anything.
I don't know.
I assume you can.
I would assume because they want your money.
It seems to be the biggest difference. I'm called Logos. I mean, I don't know everything, but it seemed when I was looking at them, the biggest difference is the higher up in kind of
you get
level
more stuff.
you get more stuff.
And I, as someone who has Logos, uses none of that stuff. But I think you could. I bet you can.
Yeah, so I think you can. It just
download the free version. And then just go to Logos, Faith Life is the company, whatever, and buy your commentaries through that. And then, because honestly, the commentaries that come pre-installed on it, I never use them. Yeah. Like I have them on there, but like they're not that great. Yeah. And so if you can do the free version, you don't have to buy it and then do that. So just an electronic base, I don't know. I found it really helpful. And if I was 4 years ago, I would have started like that from the beginning.
Yeah, that's good.
Number 5. Now, this one is relevant to everybody.
Yes.
So one of the questions we see often in the Facebook group, people often ask is certain like, how do you do your book? Or what church management software or what presentation software. And understandably, often one of the things is looking for free or cheap.
Or cheap, yep.
We would highly recommend not going that route. So we would recommend you using the big name ones that you have to pay for. So whatever you use, we use Planning Center for church management software. We use Quickbooks for our finances, which we would highly recommend. We use ProPresenter, which ProPresenter is nice because it's a one-time fee. I don't know. Like your giving platforms, using ones that are more well-known. Use Subsplash, but it's like whatever. Just use ones. Because what happens is, if you want to do the cheap and free ones, and eventually your church grows a little bit, you're going to have to transition off of them to something else that makes more sense. And that's going to be a pain. especially changing your giving platform. You're going to lose givers.
Yep.
Stuff like that. Like you don't, and then you also want things to be compatible externally. So QuickBooks, like everybody uses QuickBooks. You can pay with QuickBooks. Like you can do so many things that a lot of these in-house smaller ones, they don't work, and so you can't do stuff. And then eventually, you probably have to switch over anyway. And so that I imagine would be a pain. So we would just recommend. Yes, it costs some money. If you can't afford some of these small monthly fees, you probably shouldn't be planting yet like that. And but also, as we've said in other episodes, many of these things, maybe not QuickBooks, well, definitely not QuickBooks because they're not a church. Well, I'll say this: many of these things do have nonprofit discounts. So I don't know if
QuickBooks does. Yep.
But many of these church ones will have a designated time where it is free for church plants because what they want to have happen is they want you to start using their stuff. And then it's a pain to switch, so then you start paying for it. It's not always on their website, but I guarantee you if you email any of these big platforms, Planning Center, I don't know, whatever, a lot of these ones that do monthly fees, you will get, honestly, free for a while to get into it. And so if $20 to $50 a month, like, you can't afford it, and so you're probably not going to... I don't know. You probably shouldn't plant yet. What you should do is go to practicalplanning.com/launch, get our launch team course to help you with it.
Yeah.
But we would recommend the ones that cost a little bit more money because it's just going to make your life much easier, both now and in the future.
Yeah, it's tough because like look, I'm all about supporting the little guy, and we want to it's not like we only want to use the things that are the ones that have been around forever. But in some cases, it's just that's what makes the most sense. Yeah. And some things like, when it comes to your books or when it comes to presentation software, there's other ones that exist, and some of which are fine. Yeah. But it's just that certain ones are kind of at the top of the industry for a reason. Yeah. And as long as it's something that, like we said, you can afford, which you probably shouldn't be doing this if there's some of these things you can't afford, because none of them are terribly expensive. Yeah. They're worth the extra money. Whether it's because you may bring someone in who has, or you're more likely to bring someone who has experience in these things. And they're just a lot more user friendly. There's a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, I mean, so like we'll talk about ProPresenter, and I don't care what people use. We see people. It's so easy, and it's like it saves you time because you can save templates. Also, these bigger ones, the like support is much better.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Yeah.
Rather just like asking them specifically or YouTubing questions, and so. It'll save you a lot of time, which in the end will save you money using some of these bigger stuff. A, because you don't have to switch over later, and B, because it's a lot easier to figure out how to do it. A lot more people know how to use it. Yeah. And so we would just always recommend. I mean, if there's a particular reason why you want to use some smaller brand, I just wouldn't let money be the deciding factor while you're using what you're using.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot. Like, this is for if you are planning a church and you want to grow. Like, if you're trying to plant a house church and you want to keep it 20, 25 people, then that's a different story. Yeah. Then it makes sense to think, like, why would I spend this much money? But if you want to grow, you're going to be kicking yourself down the road if you end up outgrowing things that you tried to save money on in the first place, because it'll end up costing you more in the long run. Like something like ProPresenter, it's a one-time fee, right? Yep. Yeah, it's a one-time fee. And so it's a Band-Aid you got to rip off, but it costs a lot more to use a different paid software for a while and then switch to them.
Yeah, and not only that, you have to learn how to use it. So imagine learning how to use a program and then having to buy a new one, having to start all over. And it's going to be more complicated because if you're ready to, that probably means you're growing or whatever, and so you have more stuff to like in this presentation software, you got to input more stuff. You might be willing in a place where you can do some more complicated things. And you have to start from scratch, which would be not very fun.
Yeah. So if you want to go with, not to say you have to go with like the ones we are mentioning, but I would say if you want to go for something cheaper or something that seems like not quite the big name, have a reason to. Yeah. Like if it's something you have a ton of experience with and you're super comfortable, that's a little bit of a different story. But if it's just solely for the money, I would say wait a little bit longer if you need to, but get something that's going to last you for the long haul.
Yeah, so again, the big name ones typically the best. The next thing we would recommend to you is some sort of software that you can follow up with people. We use Text in Church, which gives you, again, it's cost some money, but you can it's like 3 or 4 weeks, I forget, where you get a series of text and emails from us. We've talked about this in other episodes. That's just the best thing you can do is. Typically what happens is you get a Connect card and you'll email them once. Yeah. Or you maybe text them, or if you're, some people might call them and that's it. It's better to have multiple points of contact and to not have to like write these all the time. And so for us, when we get someone's Connect card, we put them in Text in Church. They get a series of texts and emails. The texts are mostly, hey, thanks for joining us. And then on Saturday, it's like, hope we see you again. Just for a couple of weeks. They don't get this forever. And then a series of emails, they get more information about our church. So like the first one's talking about social media and serving in groups. One of them is talking about partnership, if they want to learn more, like when the next one is. One of them, I don't know what they're all talking about, but it's just like a little bit of information every time instead of like a 1,000 word email of here's 30 links of like, it's just, it needs to be simple and short and sweet each time so that people will actually read them. And so again, we would highly recommend some sort of automated tool. Now again, this costs money, but it's worth it if it means people are going to come back, and you're assured that you're not going to forget to tell them things. And so here's how we do it. I think we said this in a recent episode, or we did, the one on Disney. How church planners can learn from Disney. One of the things that they did not do well is they didn't follow up with certain things. I'm not going to rehash it there because I'm still upset about it. But if you have a Connect card like us, or you have some way of someone getting information, if they give you their information, you put them into the follow-up process. But if they also check something specific on that card, like community groups, like if you're in the follow-up process, you'll get some generic information about community groups, but you also need to make sure you follow up with them about that specific thing. So if somebody comes to us, they give us a Connect card, they get automated follow-up, but they also get specific follow-up from us if they checked one of the things in particular. So that's just be aware of that. Don't just let the automation be like, if someone wants something, get them information as quick as possible. But we would recommend having some sort of automated follow-up tool so that people aren't falling through the cracks and they're getting all the information that they need, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, and you maybe like pre-launch or early on and have very few people come around and think like, why is this even necessary? I currently text everybody or email and it's perfectly fine. And it probably is, but it's just not sustainable in the long run. That's kind of the case with a lot of these things. Like you can do things kind of your own way when you're small and when it's just, even if it's just you, but as you grow and as things get a little more complicated, it gets harder and harder and takes up more and more of your time. So it's good to get these things in place before you think it's necessary, than kind of when it's not too late, but when it's already past the time when it should have been necessary.
And again, even if you're like, I can do these things myself, you might forget too.
True.
Like you just, and it's like, so we recommend, and Texan Church, they have some like webinars and stuff, so they actually explain and give you templates of things that you can use. So if you don't even know, you can start from there, and they kind of talk about why. And so we recommend something. There's other platforms like this. I mean, this one, going back to our last point, might cost a little bit more than the others. What I see sometimes is, again, people are trying to find the cheapest ones. And that can be fine, but it's better to not have to switch later on. And to use one program, learn how to use it, and just grow with it, as opposed to having it change back and forth. So
do you remember when we started using Texan Church? Like roughly how long into the church?
Honestly, I don't know.
Because I would think, I don't remember if it was an issue for us, honestly, 'cause it was earlier on, but it wasn't quite at the very beginning. But the longer you go and the bigger you are, the harder it's going to be to get everyone in your kind of text
that's true.
List, because we use it for follow-up, but we also use it for church-wide things, like if there's something that we need everybody to know. And if you're going a couple years and don't have this, then that's just going to be more and more people that you got to try and get on board with this, which is just going to make it a lot tougher.
So what we do, if we get someone's information, we put their information in Texan Church, where they get a series of emails and texts, and then we also put their number in our all text notifications, which we only text the whole church 2, 3, maybe 4 times a month. Probably not that much.
Oh, I don't think it's that much.
Maybe lately it's been a little bit more because of COVID changes.
Okay, maybe, But
it's like very rarely. But we have the first couple of years, the longer you don't have that, the more you don't have it. So that's a good point, is you want to have something that you can start getting people's database, which leads us to the next thing, and that is how do you email newsletters. We recommend Mailchimp, which again, it's free for a very long time. What we do is we put their information on Texan Church, but then we also put their information on Mailchimp in our newsletter. So again, if you switch, email things, it's not that big of a deal, because a lot of times you can export, your contacts. But still, it's good to have one thing where it's all in the same place. We highly recommend. I think a lot of church planters miss this, sending a weekly, and by weekly I mean once a week. Do it every week, but only send one.
But only one,
unless there's like a big change. So like this past week we sent 2 because North Carolina and the whole country, the CDC changed the mask mandate, and so we've been mask required, and so obviously we sent them an email on Saturday saying we're going to move to mask optional, that sort of thing. But send only one, and do it every week as a way to stay in front of your people. I recommend, it might seem like, what do I say? Do a plain text email. You don't need pictures and images, because people don't click on that stuff. What I would do if I was new is maybe a short, like a couple sentences at most, little vision or blurb, and then if there's something like a particular event you want to highlight, a couple sentences on that, and then the upcoming events. Like ours is, you can read it in 30 seconds. Our open rate, I don't know, I think it's a lot higher than average. Even though we've got a lot of people who no longer come or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
New people that we put their information in a Mailchimp and then they never came back, but they still haven't unsubscribed.
Yeah.
But I think part of it is because it's the same every week. It's sent at the same time every week, and it's pretty basic. So you know it's not going to be this long thing.
Yep.
So we recommend doing. No matter where you are in this church plant phase, get a newsletter, start getting people's emails, and sending them one kind of semi-brief email every week. People are not going to be annoyed by once a week, especially if it's the church. They want to know what's going on. So we recommend Mailchimp. There's lots of options up there, but again, Mailchimp is free for a very long time.
Yep.
And their stuff is really good because a lot of people use it.
No, it's really good, and especially like just doing a plain text email. I've worked places that were very insistent on our newsletters need to have lots of pictures, color. I mean, different scenarios, obviously, or different like organizations call for different things, but it was definitely to the point where unless you are an expert at this, it is very easy for something to look very bad and cheesy, and it did
like clip arty.
and it's just and so plain text, like I had this conversation with people in the past where they're like, no, people want to see pictures and stuff, and in most cases true, but people don't need to see the same picture every week. Most likely, you don't have new updated photos.
And
for
you should
every
post
single thing
pictures
you
on
do.
social media. That's what people want to see pictures.
Exactly. So plain text email, schedule it, get it. Use Mailchimp. Use something that you can kind of contact your entire database at once. I mean, I feel like Mailchimp is kind of the industry standard, or maybe the biggest name, at least that I hear. So hopefully it's not the first time you're hearing it, but Mailchimp.
And it's free, so unlike the other ones.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
it's free. But yeah, get an email list as soon as possible so you have people's information.
Mm-hmm.
Send one once a week. I don't know the best time. We send ours on Thursday because it's kind of close to the weekend, so it kind of reminds people about stuff. But I would do it every week, just one, plain text. Doesn't need to be long at all.
Yep.
So Mailchimp is what we use. And then last but not least, number 8, tool for church planners, is a church website builder. There's lots of places you could do this, unless you're highly skilled at it, which you're probably not. Most people are not. Mm-hmm. Having someone who you pay, there's a fee to this, but having a good-looking website, because everyone's going to look at it, and it's really not that expensive. And so we've used various ones throughout the year. Currently, we're using the Church Co. I think their basic package is like $20 a month or something. Especially if you're a church plant too, they give you a discount. Nice. At least they did. They did. Last time I checked. In fact, when we switched to them, they gave us the discount, even though we're not a church plant.
Yeah.
So it was like a 6-month, whatever it was. So there's lots of different options up there. I particularly, again, would recommend a church builder, not just a website builder, because there's certain things about church websites that might be helpful. And you want something that loads fast, that is clean and crisp. I mean, it is still on you to put relevant information. And we have, I don't know what episode it is. We've got something, I don't know, somehow last year we talked about the things that need to be on your homepage. And so you should look that up if you're wondering how you should develop your website. But again, I was on a church website today from a church that's probably, I don't know, maybe 200 people or more, and could not find, they didn't have a page for their staff.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, well, first of all, go to the website, and then you have to click this button to enter the website. It was weird.
Oh, weird.
Like it was like this landing page, and so you had to click it once, and then you couldn't find their staff. Because I was trying to, anyway.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not good. The site looks fine. But anyway, and a lot of these builders, like the Church Co., and they don't sponsor us, by the way. Like they have examples, so you can see how churches have done it. So spend a little bit of money. It'll save you a lot of time. It's a lot more plug and play, so you can just update stuff, and you don't have to have all the information. You don't have to know everything. But definitely invest in a church builder. Again, a lot of these will give you a discount if you're a church plant. But make sure your website is okay. And even if you haven't launched yet, this is so important because if you're less than, again, go to the launch team course, practicalplanning.launch. We talk about .com/launch. We talk about this, but people are looking, like if you're less than 9 or 6 months out, you don't have to have a lot of information, but it shows, hey, like we're actually something that's happening here.
Yeah.
And so some sort of well builder, we use the Church Co., but there's lots of them, so that you actually have a website that looks decent, that loads fast, because that's a big thing, and that can give you some support if you have questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of benefits of doing it this way. Like you can be in total control. Like everyone that we've used are very plug and play, and even if you have no web design or web, whatever experience, web builder experience, you can go in and update things and figure out the way things are supposed to work. We have here, before we kind of discovered these, we used to build it ourselves. You did, right?
Long time ago.
Very early on. But we had people that came, and I've heard this story a bunch of, like, I have a buddy who's a web designer or something like that, so I'll just do it through them. And we had people who were here who were good at that stuff, but we found that you are at their mercy. Like
if you need something big done, I do some really basic WordPress stuff, basic, but it's like you have to wait.
Yeah, you had to wait. And I've been part of other organizations that like we hire a local, web designer, and they're in charge of everything. And and not that they don't do good work, but you can't just change something if you need to change something. You have to contact them, wait for them to contact you back, get billed for it, all these things. And so these things are, oh my goodness, just like incredibly helpful. And you just updated our website a week ago or something like that. Was that like a new template or something like
I
that
noticed.
they offered?
I was trying to figure something out, so I go on their website, and because they have different,
Church Code's website.
Yeah, they have different, examples. Because I was trying to see how churches were doing. I forget what it was, and then I noticed this one website. I was like, oh, this is like a really cool layout. And then I was like, but they probably have custom, because they have like a few custom ones. And I realized there was no like custom thing. It was just like whatever it was called. And then I noticed another church had it, and I was like, when did this happen?
Yeah.
And so I went on ours, and I noticed that was an option. And so I clicked one button. And because before our website was fine, but I also felt like, it was fine. But now it looks even better.
Yeah.
And I clicked a button, and it changed everything.
Are you serious? That was it?
I clicked the button and I had to update like 2 things, and that was it.
Gosh,
so,
newcityrdu.com if you want to just see what like an example of this looks like. Not that you have to go with Church Code, but that's just who we have. But like like you said, before it was good. Like it was very and I mean the biggest thing is like that website is easy to navigate, and you can easily find things, more so than that it's like super dynamic. But it was good. But like a week and a half ago or a couple weeks ago, Dylan texted me and he's like, check out our page. Let me know what you think of it. And I remember I opened it up when he first emailed me. I guess hadn't updated yet.
Yeah.
And I don't really go on our website a whole lot. I was like looking for a difference. I was like, this looks like the same as before. And then I pulled it up on my phone, and it was like things were moving. Like it was.
It looked
I was like,
it looked like it was custom.
Yeah, I thought it was honestly until you said this. But it looks awesome. And so check it out. But like I couldn't believe that something like that was just a couple button click. It looks like something you had to pay a lot of money for.
Yeah. So that's the benefit of it.
Yeah.
Having someone who's specifically a church builder, it's absolutely worth the investment. $30 a month to have something that looks nice, and it'll save you a lot of time.
And like what we found is for them, and with the other one we've used, like if there's things that you want to do that aren't necessarily part of their, like if you're someone who doesn't want to be restrained to what is able to be done, they can work with you and put things in for you. Like the church plan we sent out, Adam, he uses a different giving software, and so they were able to put like a giving button on his every page, which didn't like, however they had it set up, didn't like come native to it, but they were able to build it for him, even though it wasn't necessarily part of their package or whatever. So they can do a lot more stuff than just what's shown too. So even if you're someone who's like, I have all these crazy ideas, it can probably still work for you.
So those are 8 tools that we recommend for church planters. As we end, if you want some more free tools, practicalplanting.com. We've got some other resources that we talk about that we haven't talked about. We have a media page, so we give you our sermon graphics and bumper videos for free. Like you don't even have to give us anything. Man,
if you haven't launched yet and don't know what that world is like, it stinks trying to find them. Let me tell you.
Yeah, trying to find like a bar video. So, if it works for you, just use it. Practicalplanting.com. There's a lot of free stuff there. So, hey, thanks for listening, and we'll be with you next time on Practical Church Planting.